Hi, Vintage Stereo Buff back again. As you might know, I recently got a GD1 distortion detector, and I've been running some tests on some of my amps to measure what the output voltage is at the 1% distortion. And when you run these tests, I've been running these tests with unloaded output, which means there's no speaker output. No speakers are hooked up to it. It's just measuring the voltage across the outputs, which I don't think it's really that accurate. It doesn't really, it's not a very good example of a real world load. So I decided to take a couple of the tests on the lower powered amplifiers, and I left the speakers, the subwoofer and the speaker system hooked up to the amp. In other words, the outputs were loaded, and then I measured it. And I went back and rechecked one of the amps that I had done. The problem was that the amps are too powerful and my speaker is much too efficient. So the speaker gets really, really loud before I can reach my distortion to make the test. But what I did notice on this one was that with the outputs unloaded and no speakers hooked up, the Rockford Fosgate would output 47 volts. Now it would work out to 552 VA. But when I hooked the speaker system to it and ran it up to clipping, it actually clipped at 42 volts, which is 5 volts less, a considerable amount, than what it does unloaded. So it kind of shows that the unloaded tests are probably pretty worthless as far as figuring out what it'll actually do into a speaker load. So I wanted to test all my amps this way, and with this Cerwin-Vega speaker I have, it's a really nice old vintage sub, but it also is way too efficient, and even with the 50 watt per channel amps, it just gets too loud in this room for me to do the tests. I'm annoying my cohabitants. They don't like all that bass noise rattling the windows. So I got this Cerwin-Vega. I took it out of my box and I'm going to replace it with this new Rockford Fosgate Punch subwoofer. This is not vintage, not old school. It's brand new school, but it suits my purpose because it's only 86 decibels efficient. It's about 12 decibels less efficient than the Cerwin-Vega, which means it will be a lot less volume when I run my 300 watt amps to it. It won't be so loud in here that I can't run it up to distortion. And that's the main purpose of buying it. And also this sub will handle over 400 watts RMS and 800 peak. The Cerwin-Vega only handled 250 watts maximum, and most of my amps are 300 watts or better. So I bought this. It's a nice looking sub. It also has this pretty good sized magnet. It's quite a bit bigger magnet than the Cerwin-Vega had. And this boot goes over it. I'm not sure what the purpose of it is. I guess it's to make it look like the speaker magnet is bigger than it really is and impress kids. I really don't give a shit about that. But anyway, the good thing about this sub is I can use it in exactly the same subwoofer box that I had my Cerwin-Vega in. This manufacturer, I think it says they want a 3,200 cubic inches as optimum size for a vented enclosure. And this enclosure internal dimensions are about 3,400 cubic inches. So it's just slightly bigger. It'll work fine. This woofer, this port is for the Sur-and-Vega woofer. This cabinet is built for the Sur-and-Vega. But for this Rockford Fosgate, they say I need a 4-inch port 10 inches long. I might change that. I might just leave it as it is. Leave that diameter and work with that the tube length to see where I can tune it without making a bigger port in it. Also, this speaker has a nice little trim ring that goes on it. And also, if this woofer is used in a sealed enclosure, it says from a 0.8 cubic foot to a 1.8 cubic foot sealed enclosure. Well, that's just right about exactly what this is. So this box will work. I can either seal it or I can run it ported. And as you can see, it has a nice trim ring to go on the front too, which I'll put on. Show you how that looks. It's a pretty heavy woofer. And a trim ring which goes here makes it look a little nicer. So I'm going to go work on that this afternoon, getting this sub installed and hooked back up, and then I'll get back to you and run some more tests with the outputs loaded. So for now, vintage stereo buff out. Well, I got my sub put in the box and mounted, and I've got it hooked up now to my Rockford Fosgate Punch 250 amp. And what I'm going to do is make a short little test to look at the output of this amp before it distorts. I already did it, and it sets, it's right now is where it puts out 19 volts. If I go any higher than 19, it'll clip. So that's as much as I can get. It's at 19. And when I calculate that 19 times 19 is 361 VA. That's not watts, that's volt amps. If you do, no, that's not it, that's the square of the voltage. But anyway, divide that by 4 ohms, and it would be 90 VA. But that's not considering a power factor. So if you consider a power factor of, say, 0.8, like 80%, if you figure that, that would be around 72 watts. So the amp is rated at 62. So I'd say it's doing pretty good. Probably the power factor is closer to 85 or 90, but you just don't know, depending on the particular load of the driver, and even the wires can affect that. Anyway, that's all I need to show you for now, and vintage stereo buff out.